We
I'm
go
holding
live,
so I don't roll away.
and don't roll away on me, Cara.
I'm gonna move.
I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about today, even though we don't really have anything formally planned, because I know we have a lot going on. I'm just making sure here that we get on and we get live, because otherwise we get feedback because we don't have the high-tech tools and team. There we are. And so now we're good to go. So we were talking as we were getting set up this morning. First of all, that we're having a lot of sluggishness with the internet. So the internet's really slowing down for us. So we may have to turn our video off at some point. So don't be surprised if this ends up being more of a podcast with black screens than with a video. So we'll see what happens out here in the woods in Severn Bridge. So we thought we would start today by just talking about how we're feeling, because I know it's been a rough couple days for me, and you were saying it's been a rough couple days for you, and I think it's important to be real. That's kind of what we committed to doing when we talked together, right?
I was crying. I was like yesterday I actually got up and I felt really sad, and I know why. Like, I mean, the world, right? Like, but at the same time, it was just like, it was encompassing sadness. It was just like, ugh. And then I'm like, you know what? No, I was actually going to just stay in self-pity. Who am I kidding? Sometimes you just, So I was just so miserable. And then guess who shows up? Our little friend, Dia.
No way.
I said it. She won't care. And you know what? Yeah, out of nowhere. Isn't that unreal? Yeah. And then get this, guys. Then Kevin, my husband,
the other day.
Then my husband pulls up. I'm like, oh my God, he's there. He never comes for lunch ever, right? And then next thing you know, the paralighter guy shows up. I'm like, wow, thank you so much for getting me out of this funk. Because I was talking to her, and she's even willing to like come on these little things too, and we can interview her, she said.
Oh, awesome. Okay, that would be really good.
And I said,
well, I mean, she's in an interesting position too in our industry.
Yeah, we're both in a very interesting position. So she was thinking of some business ideas, and then I thought of a cool one, which would be yoga dance. But I mean, I'm seeing everybody doing it now, but not with me. It's so much fun. So I'm thinking of releasing energy and making people feel good by doing that, because yoga is such a beautiful thing. And yes, practicing it the way it's supposed to be practiced is great. It is great. However, I want to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
no one would teach it like you, Cara. No way.
I honestly love shaking my ass like a lot, like on the best of days. So
I know the few classes that I've done here.
Yeah.
They don't work unless you're in.
You have to do dance yoga. Like, it's really fun. And, and if somebody else takes it from me because they're like, wow, that's a freaking good idea. Yeah. But you know what? It's not even following what I do. It's doing your own thing. It's a bunch of people getting together and screwing up yoga and dance all at the same time and just getting their hearts going. Like, that would be so much fun. And I wasn't even going to tell her anything about it. And something in me was like, and I really trust her. I really trust her. I know that she's going to tell me the truth. And she's like, oh my God, I would do it. She also said she would do retreats with us at Torrance Barrens, and I did not bring anything up. Cool. So, you know what? Cool. I mean, the universe, the collective consciousness, even though I'm really sad and I can pick it up off of everyone, I'm also picking up a lot of love.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like my pick me up. It's like, I can't change racism. I can only change myself from being, I can only learn and sit back and listen to what I can do to fix it. Because, the truth is I'm white. I've never had any issues as far as my skin color. Maybe once in a while, but not every day. Like, this is like an everyday occurrence for people who are not white. I'm sorry to say, that's
Yeah.
just the truth. And I think that seeing that man die like that was just so, and it was triggering for me in the sense that I had to watch a man who was guilty walk away from the courthouse. My
Mm-hmm.
sister and my stepfather. So you know what I mean? I've had to watch that kind of injustice, but so I can understand a small piece of it, but
Mm-hmm.
I can never understand what it's like to be Black because I'm not Black, you know? And all of us need to change. It's like saying that people understand abused children or sexual abuse, but you don't unless you've been there. So don't pretend and sit there and bullshit like you know. And look, I'm getting upset because you don't know. Don't know unless you are that person. And
Mm-hmm.
growing up in Scarborough, I heard so many racist white kids. Like, it's not even funny. And, born in
Mm-hmm.
1980. So, like, I mean, luckily my parents were not, to a certain degree. I think every person on earth has some sort of discriminatory thing, right? But there's no effing place for it in the police system or in the justice system. There's no place for this. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, what the hell? And the riots, I get it. I don't get it, but I get it. The anger and the frustration and the pain of years and years of being treated like shit. I was like that. Was treated not because of the color of my skin, for other reasons, a woman, a child, whatever. you know, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that, as far as jobs and things like that, I was good to go because I'm white.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
Canada is not
Well,
as, in my opinion, is not as bad as the US. Like, I mean, I've never seen, but there's an underlying thing where people are just not paying attention. And this is why the riots are happening. It's like,
well,
look at,
I'm going to disagree on some points with you on that. I agree on a couple things. I agree that there's voices that need to be heard. So here's an interesting thing about my background. I grew up in a small town called Dresden in Canada, which is about an hour north of the Windsor border. That is actually
that
where
is
Uncle
far.
Tom's cabin. Yeah, Uncle Tom's cabin is there. Uncle Tom's cabin is believed to be the end of the Underground Railroad. And one of my summer jobs, besides doing manual labor in the fields, was to actually work at the small town library. And so in the small town library, it holds all the records of what happened in that town. Here's an interesting thing to know about that town is that at some point in the town, you know how you have your roads and they're generally created in a grid, right? So you have roads going this way and roads going this way. Well, somewhere in the middle of the town, the grid is offset. And it's believed that that's where the segregation happened. So that on one side of the town, you had the white people, on the other side, you had the Black people.
Yeah.
So this was a town that I grew up in. And when I was doing my bachelor's degree, I actually, my project, my like graduating thesis project was actually on subtle racism. And so at the time, what I was doing was I was actually creating experiments where we would take pictures of different people and we were creating job ads. And so it was like, you can work for this company and it's all white people. You can work for this company and it's all Black people. And you can work for this company and it's an interracial mix of people. And to see, because the theory we were working on with subtle racism is that people know it's not cool to discriminate people based on their skin color. People now know that that's not a politically correct thing to do.
It's ridiculous.
Right? And so most people don't have those conscious viewpoints anymore. But the subtle racism was more on the fact that I may know that it's wrong, but subconsciously I make decisions that
Based
create this systemic challenge, right? So, but it's an interesting thing to reflect on, right? Because we are all innately comfortable with people who look like us. It's some kind of innate thing that we do. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have friends who look different, because we all do, or I should say most of us do. But what we found is that people are drawn to the jobs and the places where people look like them. So the white people were drawn to the images, the workplaces that had white people, and Black people were drawn to the images of the companies that had Black people. And then there was a mix of people that were drawn to the interracial as well. And so I think when we look at some of those things, there's a complexity to understand that we can have friends of different race and color and ethnic backgrounds and classes and all of these things. But yes, I agree, it's difficult for us to understand what it's like to live in the world as them, because they're experiencing all these things that are in a subtle way. And when it's subtle, you can't always articulate it. You can't always prove it, right? Because it's subtle. That's the nature of it. And so I fully support the movement to bring Black lives and Black issues forward, as well as a lot of the other races that are also minority in a lot of countries. And that's important because, you know, as some of us, you know, we've maybe experienced moments in our life where we've been a minority.
Exactly.
If we travel, right? Like when I was traveling once to Abu Dhabi and I had people asking to take my picture as a blonde-haired, like, woman, you know, dressed in American clothes. So like, can we take your picture? And it was, I mean, for me, it was a life-changing experience to be in that position and to notice how I felt walking around in public, looking very different. But it was also really wonderful because I was in a setting at times where it was comfortable, I was able to have discussions with some of the women, with some of the men, and we were able to discuss, you know, our religious beliefs and why we dress differently and how
that's
that,
why
like,
I
the
love
cultural
traveling,
differences.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
at
why.
the same time, I also was in the middle of a mob and I had men groping me and grabbing me, and, you know, and there was a lot of women who were hurt in that process. So we experienced both sides in that, you know, in a couple of days. We saw the positive and the negative. And there's moments of that still stay with me. Like there's women that I don't know if they actually made it out or not. So there's that. My concern with what's happening is that, you know, I woke up this morning thinking about riots that I used to see as a child on TV, like, because there's riots have been around historically. And as a kid, I used to always wonder, like, I mean, I was a weird kid. There's no denying that. We all know that. I'm still weird.
That's why you're my friend.
I always wonder in my mind when I would see I know, right? It's like, where do they get the bricks from? Like, I'm going to go to a peaceful protest and I'm going to put a brick in my backpack.
I don't understand why violence is even involved, but that's the thing. Like, I don't agree with it.
Here's what I want to bring forward on you. And you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but and I don't care. You know, you might. Go ahead. But I'm really interested in the truth. And so I tend to follow people who have a wide variety of belief systems and access and all, and I'm open to all of it for the most part.
And so smart. Open-mindedness is smart.
So what I'm concerned about is all of these videos that I'm seeing online where skids of bricks have been delivered to these towns and these cities where the riots are breaking out. Why would skids suddenly appear with bricks on them?
I gotta look into that.
Hours before a riot. That's suspicious to me. And to be quite frank, I think that the peaceful protesters stayed peaceful. I think that there was probably this, and you can say it's a conspiracy theory, but knowing what I know about the dark energies that exist on this planet, I would not be surprised if there was a second faction that took advantage of these peaceful protests to create violence for their own agenda, which also negates the Black Lives Matter movement, in my opinion, right? Because there are people who aren't able to differentiate between the actual message that needs to come up into collective humanity, because we need to, all these race and class issues,
Yeah.
need to be healed. They need to be
Yeah.
brought forward. They need to be brought into the light. And so
Right.
I'm completely supportive of that happening.
Because with George, it wasn't subtle. Like,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It
And I
wasn't
mean, I know
subtle.
there's a lot of conspiracy theories about what has happened with that whole scenario, right? And I think that's for everybody to judge for themselves. But the reality is, whether that was real or not, we know there's scenarios in the past that have been real, and we know,
Right.
and for a lot of different people and a lot of different reasons. So regardless of what we end up debating there, we know that things need to change. We know that things need to be brought
Yeah.
into the light. My concern is that the message is getting lost in this small faction that is
It could
capitalizing
be
on
becoming
this to
disruptive.
create
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah. The violence is not
Yeah.
acceptable at all. It's not, right?
Yeah.
I
And the
mean,
people who are truly trying to bring voice and healing to this aren't creating
aren't,
violence.
no, they
I
aren't.
know,
They
in
want
my
it to
heart they are.
stop.
Exactly.
Well,
And
like my
why would they go and damage like their small, like your local community? Why would you go and destroy your community? Who would do that? You wouldn't do that. It doesn't make sense. So to me, there's something off with the actual violence part. The
Americans
other
are
thing
nice
that
people too. Like, I mean, that's a thing. Like,
they are,
I've never met.
they totally are.
And well, this is it. Like, I mean, I remember seeing. I picked up a rubber bullet off the ground in Northern Ireland. Remember, I grew up around that. I saw
Yeah.
kids with Irish flags on their head and burning, and I saw fights, and I saw soldiers, and I was chased by a soldier called an Irish. Yeah, Irish, see you next Tuesday. And I was 12, okay? And I was with
Yeah.
my aunt, and I'm white just like them. So, it was more
Yeah.
religious. It was more, the area that we were living in or whatever. But I don't have to deal with that every fucking day. Like a lot of I don't. I'm white. I'll be blunt. I don't. Northern Ireland different,
Yeah.
but really no one knows any different when they see me. They question my hair, which is a beautiful compliment. But
Yeah.
like, what's your background? But I'm white.
Well, and
I
that's
don't
the thing,
see that
like
every
we can't change our skin color just like nobody else can. I mean, I
That's
guess
right.
theoretically you can, but
You
most of
can,
us
but
don't have the means to do
you can do
that, or
whatever
the
now.
desire to do that. But I also think, I mean, for me, the concern is around there's these waves of energy that are very subtle, that are coming forward across humanity, that seems to have the underlying message that humans are bad, that we're innately bad, that we
And we're
innately
not.
hate each other. And I think that is propaganda. That is some kind of spiritual propaganda lie. Have we made bad decisions? Yes. Have
Yes.
we had an opportunity to learn from them? Yes. Can we continue to learn from them? Yes. Do we need to discuss these issues? Yes. But are people bad? No. No.
No.
And
Didn't
I
we talk
think
about
that
riots last week too?
energy is not helping.
We did.
Pardon?
We talked about
Yeah.
riots last week. And what did I say to you? I don't agree with them. I don't. I mean, I was a child witnessing things like that. Guns put in the car, like, I mean, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Picked up a rubber
Yeah.
bullet off the ground. Because what happens is the police come in with these rubber bullets and they start shooting the rioters. And if nobody's doing
Mhm.
anything, that's the thing. A lot of times people would just, hi, a lot of times people would just be peaceful and they would get shot at. That's the
Mhm.
way it was. Like, the people don't get pissed off
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah.
The Catholics in Northern Ireland
Yeah.
and the Protestants, whatever, they are all got pissed off for a reason. Like, my cousin was murdered in Northern
Yeah.
Ireland because of the fact that he
Yeah.
was Catholic in the
Yeah.
police force. So yes, we're all
Yeah.
affected by it. This is a human problem. But right now, that guy was black.
Yes. Exactly.
He had a white man in his neck. I don't know what the hell, I can't even watch the video because I know I would be traumatized forever. There are people watching this. He was
Mhm.
basically like old school hung in front of everybody.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
And ever since I've been upset. I've been like upset. And then I've been upset because of the rioting. I read a news
Yes.
article where
I
a
want to
little
take it. Yeah, I
was
saw
stuck in
that.
a house.
I
Like,
saw
that's
that.
not okay, right? Like,
No.
knock it off,
There's a lot
people.
of bad things happening,
I don't think
but
it's
there's
the people that
also
like you said, I don't think it's the peaceful. It's not. It's not.
it's not. It's not. It's
It's
not.
not.
And that's my concern because I'm worried we're going to end up fighting each other instead of fighting the energy that's actually trying to harm everybody,
Yeah.
you know? Because here's the thing that I mean, I'm really uncomfortable to talk about it because my skin is white and things can
I
be
know, me
so
too. I'm like, I don't know how to say
so
anything wrong.
misconstrued because of that, right? And I want to be clear that I'm fully supportive of anybody that is speaking out or peacefully protesting the Black Lives Matter. That needs to come forward. 100% agreed. Just like it needs to come forward for all of the Aboriginal women,
Yep.
especially in Canada, but across the world that
Yep.
have been harmed, for all the children that have been harmed,
Yep.
for anybody, regardless of your skin color, that has been harmed.
Yeah.
I fully support everybody bringing that forward. Here's what I know, or what I've been researching on the spiritual side, right? Because I've gone down this path of trying to understand black magic and Luciferianism and all of these underlying dark
Know your
energies
enemy.
that are, whether we want to believe it or not, they are at play in all these
Yeah.
events that are happening around the world. So here's my story. About 6 months ago, I became aware of something called the Orion Black Box technology. And this is a fourth density, so fourth dimensional energy that is used to harm humans. I don't have a lot of information on it. There are people out there who know more information on it, but I can't seem to reach them. So I'm basing it on what I have deciphered for myself. So if there's people who know otherwise,
I'm
please
sitting back
contact me because
listening,
I want more
girl.
information.
I can't wait to hear.
However, so my experience with the black box technology, beautiful,
Hi, baby.
is that it's beautiful. I'm getting pictures here, beautiful paintings.
You know what? None of us can see because you have your background, so it looks like a ghost child.
That's for their protection. um, so this technology is like an energy, and what I've seen for myself and with some of the people that I've worked with is it's like a black energetic cage or box around the heart. And so it stifles our true nature. It makes it difficult for us to connect to God, to divine, to universal oneness, whatever you want to call it. But it is a harmful energy in our space. And it is like an energetic cage, for lack of a better term, for me. And it influences how we see the world and how we're able to express ourselves in the world and how we experience our emotions. And so I've been working really diligently to find the antidote to that in the last couple months. And I'm already being told that this video is going to be an issue. So we'll see where it goes.
If it's really an issue, you'll be like cut off like I was last week.
Yeah, so I don't have the antidote yet, but I've been working on it. So anyway, yesterday I was bombarded in my social media with black boxes. And like I said, I fully support the movement. I fully support speaking out. I fully support all of that, 100% behind bringing love and healing. And I know equality is not the right word, but whatever those appropriate words are, forward. But when I tune in to the black boxes, I don't feel freedom. I feel oppression. I feel silencing where we should be doing the opposite. And I think the one thing we have to be really careful of in our social media is who starts that movement and what is their intention
That's what
behind
I
it
mean.
and
I
how does
always
it
think like
feel when
that.
we tune into it. Does it feel like when I post this, I'm posting it because it feels right? Or do I feel like I have to post it so that I'm not guilty? Right? And so I
The motive
don't want
behind it.
to, yes. Oh, girls, come on. Can you keep that in the other room, please? Oh, it's so beautiful. I love it.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm getting paint all over my computer right now. Good job. So I don't want to say this the wrong way, but my concern is that there's these symbols used by these dark forces, and they are used without our knowledge because we haven't understood the symbols. And sometimes when we take on those symbols or we adopt them or we share them, it's like us giving our free will away. It's like us entering into a contract that we don't have a conscious awareness of, right? And what we're trying to do is end subtle racism. And at the same time that we're trying to end subtle racism, we are actually receiving a subtle energetic attack where we are being asked to give our free will away. And so that was, I mean, I had a really rough day yesterday as well, and a lot of tears. And some of it is the collective grief and all the pain and the suffering that we are all witnessing, not only now, but this is the accumulation of all the suffering that humanity has gone through
Oh my God, there are
over
so
all
many angry
lifetimes.
people. I mean, yeah, and it has to come out.
Yeah. But I also have this grief around having a line of sight into that and not knowing how to communicate it in a way that isn't going to make people feel defensive or make them feel like they're not heard, because I hear them.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see further constraint placed around that movement, placed around the people, placed and not just, one race, but everyone who's trying to stand up and stop it.
It's true. I found something
and so
on exactly what we're talking about right now. And
go ahead.
I mean, hold on one second. Photos.
We're trying to do a video. Can we just go back to painting?
Yeah, I didn't say that. So I guess it's not meant to be. So basically the anger is supposed to happen. Like, we are pissed off. Everybody gets, it's like, and I'm only using this as an example because it's what I know of an example, and I'm not Black. So I'm going to make that clear. Is when you constantly see the justice system or your system that you're paying taxes to constantly, pardon my language, fuck you over.
Yes.
Judge you, not give you the same job, treat you like shit. The kids are, I mean, there's so much more to this, like you said, that goes way beyond we can even imagine. There are some really, really, really evil white people and evil people, but like in this situation, there's some evil people in this world that want us all to fight each other. I personally, when I see like the Me Too movement with child abuse, sexual abuse and all that, because I was a victim my whole life with that, I was like, yeah, me too. But I still did not put Me Too online. And I still don't understand it. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's like, but I was still too scared because those guys scared me. I know that I can be molested as a child and they can get away with it. That was my perception. So this is it with these guys. They're like, geez, I pay taxes, I do this, I do that. And my entire life, every day is like this for them. They're treated differently because of their color. That would be like,
and we should all be angry about that.
We should all be like, and here's all I want to say is, and this is what I would want somebody to say to me as a victim of sexual assault and child abuse. Listen, just listen. Just hear me. Just hear me. That's it. That's it. I don't want you to give me friggin' advice. I don't want you to explain to me how I'm supposed to feel. that I was betrayed and this and that by my parents too, which is also a hierarchy. Like no one in the system protected us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I can understand that kind of anger. I see it in my sister a lot because she's wanted to, react not good because she's so angry. She looks at her own kids and she gets so angry. So I get it. I get it. But like what I don't get is repeating violence. And I think that you're right. I think you're something I did not realize this until you said it, Jen. It's a possibility that it is a possibility. I'm not saying a fact, a possibility that somebody's running that. I think that years ago I heard my husband's into like the conspiracy, but anyways, is it a conspiracy? Sexual abuse isn't a conspiracy. None of these things are a conspiracy. So anyways, a conspiracy. My husband said that they brought crack into the black communities in the US years ago. The government brought crack cocaine to those communities. Why? Because they like them? And you know what? They're sitting back, and I'm getting upset, but they're sitting back and they're just going, what the hell? Like, why can't I just live and have a life and feel safe like everybody else in fucking America? Because I'm black?
Yeah.
Like that's every day for them. For me, it was a portion of my life that was bullshit. Okay. Mm-hmm. And, yes, I deal with PTSD and other things now and whatever. But at the end of the day, you know what? I can tell you that I understand what they're doing, but I don't agree with the violence. That's all. That's all. Yeah. But I understand it. I mean, when your children are being chased with a brick in Northern Ireland just because they're by a soldier, a British soldier, that's not cool. Okay. So why do you think violence happens? Why do you think the protest happens? That's why I always say there has to be a happy medium. Human beings are not perfect. None of us are. All of us are racist.
Yeah. Well, and
all of it. We're all of it.
Are we?
We just have more subtle. I don't want to compare myself to Trump, okay? Because I'm not like him. But you know what I mean? I'm sure I have.
We're not gonna have a Trump debate today. I'm gonna make sure we don't have a Trump debate today.
No, we're not. I don't even want to put him in the radar.
This is the challenge, right? Of like, I think the challenge for me is as a psychic and having received all this other information that's happening behind the scenes that's not being shared, is that there's so much, all of this is so much bigger and so much deeper than what we're seeing. And but the issues on the surface are still real and valid. They're still real and valid and need to be addressed. But there's also these huge, huge issues behind us, right? Like humanity should be upset about unnecessary violence. And I'm using that word unnecessary specifically there, because there are times where you do need to defend yourself, I think. We should be upset about injustice. We should be upset where we are made to believe that we live in these democratic societies where we vote in our leaders and that they are there to work for us, but we're not seeing that in some cases, right? Or it's debatable, we'll say, about that. And so there's things that, we should be upset about. But at the same time, but isn't the right word there. I also
it's a word.
know from my own experience in going through this journey, it does work, is that there's these processes or waves of emotions that we go through, and anger is often the first emotion that we'll experience as we start to break through something, right? And then once we break through that anger, there's a period I find of grief that we go through. And then there's like a plateau, where you start to see things differently. You start to see the bigger picture. You start to see all of the different things, all the different layers that are there. And so for me, while it's painful to watch anger and feel anger in the collective, and it's painful to watch violence, and it's painful to watch people be hurt, especially people who were uninvolved, innocent bystanders getting hurt in this process. There's also part of me that can hold space for that anger and know that it's an important part of the process. And it doesn't matter why you feel anger about the situation, because we all have different reasons for that anger based on what we've seen and what triggers us. And whether, whatever color our skin is, there's a lot of people who are experiencing anger and grief and all of these things.
Well,
and I think that it's important. Yeah, right. I know we're already under stress.
So much going on.
And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's because people are kicked up and they're going stir crazy. I don't think that's why. That's not why. It's not why. It's because we're now seeing the injustice.
That's it. That's why. They had enough. That was the straw that literally broke the camel's back. It was done. Like,
but that was, it was the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people.
I know.
A lot of people. Not like, yes, it did it because of the racial issue, but it also did it because it wasn't right. It wasn't right. It didn't matter who was under that knee. It didn't matter who, it did. But at the same time, if it had been any other race, I think we still would have seen the same uprising.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? If it had been a white man, or if it had been, a Native American, or it had been an Indian, it didn't matter. It did, but it still would have happened. I think it still would have happened.
I think human beings too, we have to learn to evolve in the way, I think we need to evolve. And here's why. Reacting because of your feelings is not good. You have to literally sit and think about what's happening, why you're feeling that way, deal with it, then react. Reacting like that is, especially with violence, where a kid almost died in a building because the police couldn't get to the building because of a fire. That is, and everybody that, is peacefully protesting is shaking their head too. And I agree. I don't think you don't paint everybody with the same brush. Just because my family's from Northern Ireland doesn't mean I know how to make bombs. That's literally what I would get told when I was, oh, you know how to, you're crazy. You drink a lot. The drinking part's true. Not anymore though. I've been sober a long time, but whatever. It's like thinking before you react. And that has taken practice for me for years, is instead of reacting first and then regretting it, it's really hard to do when you're that upset. When there's reasons why there's crimes of passion, right? The crimes of passion are not premeditated. They're, so for me, being an addict, like a recovering alcoholic and addict, I have to maintain that, because I will react and I could screw something up, ruin a relationship, and who knows, might use again. I don't know. But what I'm saying is the energy of that is not okay to just go from 0 to 100.
Exactly.
You got to kind of stop. And you know what? Because that person, the people that victimized me were hurt too. And I'm not justifying anything that they did. And even that cop, it's wrong. Yeah. But something happened, and I wish that I could make excuses for people and whatever, but in this situation, there is just no excuse. And the timing of it is the way it's supposed to be. The states needs to look at themselves, and the majority, like I said, of the people there are beautiful people. But there is subtle racism everywhere, like you said. That wasn't subtle. That was very blatant. I know that in the
Yeah.
South, there's very blatant racism, and maybe these people need to be educated that, you know, humans are humans. And like, you see, I get mad. I think like, why don't we educate them to how to fuck off? But no, we can't do that. See, the anger comes out. The anger comes out.
No, education is also a form of violence in some ways.
But education, meaning
so
like, you know, black people and white people talking and saying, this is what I'm talking about with subtle racism. Because when I was watching,
you're right, and overt, because that exists.
Is awesome. Have you ever listened to him? He's hilarious. He's a comedian. And he's married to a beautiful black lady, and he's white and she's black, and they're beautiful. Like, and he talks about how like he'll joke with her, like he'll watch a movie or whatever, and you know, she'll notice all the black subtle racist things in the movie, and he doesn't see it until she points it out. Now he's way funnier than me, and he puts it way better, but like that's exactly it. You know, he also talks about going to a neighborhood when he was first dating this girl in a black neighborhood, how scared he was going there because he's white, like he's Irish white, like me, like I mean white. So, you know, of course he's intimidated, but no one bugged him. You know, why is it the other way around? What's wrong with white people? Yeah. I mean, really, knock it off. We're not better. Like, actually, I think that, you know, I don't know very many psychopaths that are black, to be honest with you. I just know real psychopaths that are like, I know that's off topic, but really, like, I mean, everybody needs to have a conversation. I mean, that's
I do understand that argument. I think we have to be careful not to create the same situation that has already been created by lumping everybody that has a certain skin color to have the same characteristics.
Oh no, not all white people are bad. I mean, I'm a great person now, anyways. Like, you're a great person, and it's not even that.
Debatable.
There's every little part. There's always somebody in every friggin' culture. But what my point is that predominantly, let's look at history here.
Mm-hmm.
White people, right? Get your shit together. Get your shit together. I want to know what it is that I can do to make it better. I don't think putting a black sign on my Facebook is going to do fucking anything.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's not going to do anything. What can I do? You know, and then listening to Bill Burr, he explained it to me. It was like he explained it. He's like, you know, like, we don't know how, like, I immediately thought of him this morning. I'm like, we don't know we don't know as white people what we're doing wrong. But when we say, oh yeah, lives matter, this and that, blah, 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 we're minimizing their pain. Mm-hmm. We're minimizing it. Just like somebody who's saying like, you know what, Cara, you lied. You and your sister are liars. That was a judge that said that to my face.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's like, you know what, why don't you just hear us? Just listen, you know? Listen and find out what it is that you can do. I have a difficult time listening. I'm the fucking worst listener. I'm getting so much better with these little talks because I'm focusing in, trying to focus and listen. And you know, like, I need to learn that. I need to learn how to be a better person and get rid of all these judgmental bullshit things in my head. I'm not a full out racist. Like, oh my God, like I need to like own a person, like kind of bullshit. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm pretty sure that I have my own little things. Every single person on this planet has their own little, you know, racial thing. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, when it comes to like jobs and your safety and the comfort of somebody being like, I would not want to be a black person. I'm kind of okay with being born a white person. That's how bad it is. And I mean, I've seen it, witnessed it, heard it. Growing up in Scarborough, being the minority, I wasn't treated with disrespect by any of the black people there. None of them. Mm-hmm. The only person that was disrespectful to me was some lady who I remember, my friend Aisha, and she was half black, half white. And I loved her because she had my hair, like you know, but her hair was way prettier. Anyways, so we would go and hang out at like the complex across the street, because in Scarborough then in the 80s you could without getting shot. It was great. So we walked across the street, and this white lady opened the door and went, "Hey," called me a honky, and said, "What are you doing with this N word?" Yeah, this was in like 1985, 86. So
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, like as a kid. And my parents are not that way. So like they're idiots, but they're not like, they would never say something. My mom actually came down and told the woman off. But anyways, the point being is that there's been that kind of bullshit for them. And enough is enough. And you know what? All we need to do is listen. A little show that you're kind of like, making awareness to it, but it's not enough. I don't think it's enough. I really want to learn how to be the best person that I could be to all races. And, like correcting somebody if they say something inappropriate.
Well, I have a question about like, and maybe I just haven't seen enough information on it, but what happened with George Floyd, and that is how come nobody tried to stop it?
Exactly.
How come
nobody?
None of the other officers? It was
Nobody.
filmed. It was filmed by a bystander, wasn't it? And maybe I'm just not understanding. Like maybe there wasn't people around, but it was
Can I
the
tell
way
you
that
what
I
it
saw
was?
it.
Fear. It was fear.
Yeah. Well, and it's a known fact that as humans we sit and watch things happen, but we need to stop doing that.
We have to stop.
If people are being hurt, that's when the riot should happen. Like, that's when we should be saying no.
Yeah, you have to choose what you're going to, accept in your life. And if you really want your soul to evolve and you're, to feel good every day, like to feel that connection, to accept everything and everyone. And I have a difficult time accepting pedophiles. I have a difficult time accepting, mothers that abandon their kids to support themselves. But I also know that she needs to survive, and that was her way, and she didn't know any better. And I have been able to forgive and move on. And that's just what I wish. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to take a long time, because that's constant. It's like, I can only compare it to the Northern Irish, not because of the skin, just because of the wars and stuff. But, like, I can go anywhere in the world and be accepted somewhat, except like you said, like if you're a woman in some places in the world. But,
Yeah. I mean, I've experienced it with a woman.
It's scary. This world is a scary place. And that the thing is, those people didn't want to do anything because they were scared. Could you imagine the trauma that the bystanders have to deal with? Mm-hmm. I've been in situations where I was getting abused and another person was abused at the same time. And I've had to live in those nightmares, and you think like you can save it. But what I tell myself every day is that the only thing I can do is shift my own energy and show survivors out there that they can do it. And that if I can do it, they can do it. And I even make, my sister is like the most amazing person I've ever seen. She's a great mother. I don't know how she learned it, but so many things. And I just know that in this situation, something had to happen. Just like in my sister and I situation where it had to happen for us to evolve. This is humanity's evolve. But stop saying that you understand. Like, that's the thing. People got to stop bullshitting others. Like, I don't understand what it's like to be Black.
Well, I want to ask you one more thing, just to get your take on this. So as all these riots were happening in the U.S., were you aware that Hillary Clinton was in the courts around her emails?
No.
Have you heard that? We'll call it a conspiracy theory, but she was in the court system, and they're trying to gain access to her files. Now, the Q movement, which you could say is conspiracy, people label it as different things. Their belief is that Hillary Clinton is potentially involved in some of these trafficking scenarios. So if you have this race issue that's being brought up at the same time that we have human trafficking potentially issue
Yeah.
being brought forward to the public that's also not getting attention.
No, none of it. It's distraction. I'm not even going to say it, it absolutely is some sort of distraction. I would be open-minded enough to believe that there's a possibility that something is happening that I'm not seeing. Because like I said, when I listened to Bill Burr and I heard what he said, then I realized that I'm just like, I have my own set of beliefs that I grew up with. And like some of them are not right.
Yeah.
Right? This is, and then, so I wouldn't be opposed to somebody. I would think that, you know, it would make sense to try to distract people. There's also the herd, you know, DM actually brought this up to me, the herd idea of trying to get everybody together again, kind of like, you know, like the crack, like now we're going to get like, instead of crack, we're going to put George, we're going to kill, you know, a black guy for no reason and then start a big fight because people are sick of it. People are sick of it, and they, you know, they lose their minds. Plus, also the protesters that are peaceful, you know, maybe they are peaceful, and this violence is being started by the police. I don't know because I'm not there. Right? The only thing, it just stops.
I think this is where
I don't know. I can't go.
This is where my concern is that we're fighting each other in some regards. And if there really is, I mean, none of us want to believe it. And I think it's impossible almost to wrap our heads around it. But if there was some small master force that was after, you know, all the issues that Black people have, all the issues that the Native Americans have had, all the human trafficking, all the sex trafficking, all of those issues, if all those issues, all the systemic issues, if they were all tied to one group, and I don't know that they are, they might not be, but this is just theory. This is just,
oh my God, tell me and all the friggin' protesters if you find out, because we're going to go fuck that shit up.
But that's what I mean.
Right?
These riots, these protests have proven the power that we have. And that's only a small collection of the human population that have come together in that. If we all knew that there was one small group that was trying to harm the vast majority of us, right?
There's more of us.
What would we do? There's way more than us. And the power, I mean, this is what I get concerned about when we look on the social media, is that the fear that we're experiencing is real. It is a felt experience in the body. The anger that we're feeling is real. The injustice that is happening is real. But what is not real is this message, this subliminal message that we are powerless, that we are all bad, that we are all guilty, that we all hate each other. None of that is real. None of that is real.
No.
We are all so powerful. We are so powerful, and we have so much light. And when we come together, because I think the vast majority of humans support each other. I think we want a world where people are treated fairly, where people are loved, where children are kept safe, where people have the opportunity to have food and a house over their heads. And yes, nobody wants to be working themselves into sickness. Nobody wants to be slaves to their jobs. Nobody wants that. We've been forced into that in some regards. And then you have the flip side where we have, you know, nations and communities where they have no means of supporting themselves in the financial way. But we have the money. We've had the money for eons to balance that all out, to correct it.
Yeah.
Why aren't we? You know, like let's start bringing these things forward. And so that's why I'm, in some regards, you know, I'm happy that these things are coming to the light, and I can see already there's more that's coming. I mean, we have all the issues
Well,
of race,
George
but we
is
also have
like basically he is I saw Oprah post it. He's a powerful soul now. He is a guy that, you know, he sacrificed himself. And you know, that's the way my spiritual perception works, right? Like he came into a black body from, you know, the universe, and he manifested, and he showed it was blatant. Everybody, no white person on earth could ever go, ooh, we're like, right? So I think he's big, you know, and that girl, did you see
Can you
that
say his
other
name
girl
again?
too? That really, huh?
Can you say his name again? I didn't hear because the
George.
internet. George?
George.
Oh, yes. Okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry.
He has a big soul.
Yeah.
He was meant to do something big for all of us. Black, white, Chinese, Native, whatever. It doesn't matter what color we are, you know. I don't know if the rest of the world's noticing, but like we're all different colors now. You know, like we have all different, you know, we're coming together and it's changing, but we need to learn a little bit more, because that death was unacceptable completely. I mean, there's all deaths related to, you know, murder is wrong, but you know, that was like you said, everybody was standing there watching. That shows the fear that's in the United States. Like you must be
Well,
really afraid. In
we have to
Canada,
be,
I would hope that
no,
wouldn't
we have to
happen.
be
They'd be
careful
like,
not
I'd be
to
like, are
raise
you
issues.
kidding me right now? Get off his neck. Like
We have to be careful
it
though
wouldn't
to say
happen.
that this is only the United States, because there's, you know, one of the things that's been on my mind that
There's
also
racism in Canada. Yes.
there's racism in Canada, but there is also a message in Canada that we as Canadians are better than Americans. I don't know if you see that, but that message is clear and strong up here. And we have to be very mindful of that subliminal message that we're receiving, that, oh, we're lucky to be in Canada because look at how awful the US is. And, you know, Americans, this
Well,
and that.
I'm sorry. I feel
well, that's not
it sounds really,
it's better.
even the Americans are like, you know, Cara, I don't blame you. I'm happy where I'm at. The reality is that it's just not, it's, the reality is just crazy right now. I still can't believe what's happening. And just as we were talking about protesting and everything last week, you know, and nothing wrong with peaceful protesting, but if you're going to harm other people, that means that you haven't gone through the process of thinking about how you're going to react so you can get results, as opposed to making everybody, you know, oh, well, look at that. Look at those protesters. They're, you know, bad and this and that, like these of, there was so many different ways of handling it, but obviously this is the only way right now. I mean, the Irish had to do it like they did, you know, and it's not okay. You know, like there's still no garbage bins in England because of the IRA. So, I mean, like it's not, so I mean, it happens everywhere, but this is specifically because of somebody's skin color, right? Every day they have to get up and they get treated differently because of their skin color. Not acceptable anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's a really, really complex, deep issue that has very long historical roots. And so I think, you know, one Facebook post, one social media post obviously isn't going to solve the problem.
No.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have the answers to it. I think what we need to do
I
is
know.
be mindful of our emotions around our reactions to it. Excuse me, girls.
Yeah.
And
be mindful, right?
And I think when we notice that people are asking for support and asking for help, and even if even if they're not, but we see that people are endangered, we see injustice happening, I think we have to find the courage to stand up and support one another, regardless of whether
even if it doesn't work out the way you think. Yeah, even if it doesn't work
exactly,
out.
because regardless of whether we're in the same group or not, I mean, if we're going to create a world where this doesn't happen, it's going to require each one of us to do something when we see an injustice happening, instead of just letting it go by out of fear that we're also going to be hurt in the process. Right? We need to.
When I had to go to court, there was 1 or 2 people in the courtroom because everybody was scared. I love them and I forgive. It is what it is. Who wants to see that, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. People are scared. And it's like you have to do it anyways. If it's the right thing, you have to do it anyways, even if you're scared, because, you know, then you're not being part of the change. We're all in this together. Well, I think I'm going to go cry now.
We want to all be in this together. I don't think we're there yet. I really don't think we're there yet. I think we want to be. I think it's a good goal, but I don't think we're there yet. I think there's a lot of people who aren't embraced and included in this together concept that we're being fed. I mean, I see it all the time. And that's what infuriates me, of like, how come we're not doing something for these individuals or those individuals? How come they're not being seen? How come they're not being heard? We're just giving this, you know, we're placating these ideas and these concepts and these words, but we don't have the actions to support the concepts. And I think that's what we're all struggling with.
You have to take action.
How do we start to act on it? Yeah.
Yeah, the block, you know, the putting the little thing is like, you know, that's great. And I support it. I didn't do it because I'm like you, I have trust issues and things like that. But at the end of the day, you know, like, we're all responsible. And when you turn your back, you know, just like my mom turned her back, and, you know, other people, I've turned my back. I know I've turned my back on people. It is what it is. But we need to know what to do, what we can do to fix it. We need to understand. Like, I need Bill Burr to explain to me exactly what it is as a white person that I'm doing that's totally unacceptable. Because the reality is, we were raised by white people and then they were raised by white people. And it's starting to end now, but we need to know what to do. That's all I want to know. I want to know what to do.
Well, and I think we also need to demand the truth of what's happening. We need to know the truth, because I think there's a lot going on here where there's, I don't know. I feel like where I'm at today, and you can say that I'm just having a down day, which is fine. Doesn't mean that what I'm saying isn't.
It's okay to have a down day.
Maybe it's not true. But I think that there's more going on, and there's some things that it's not you and me hurting each other. It's some other systemic, larger force that's hurting all of us. And then they're pointing the fingers at the individuals. And not to say there isn't some responsibility there that we need to take, because we absolutely do. But when we get so focused on pointing fingers at each other, we lose sight of the fact that there's somebody above us and they're not getting any attention. And if we could just see them, or see that mechanism, or see that system that's creating that, then maybe we stop hating each other, and we both look up and say, no, we don't agree with that. That's the issue. Let's take that out. Yeah. Let's remove that.
No. I think that the other thing too is that I would like to mention that I am actually, when I saw this whole thing went down and everything else, I was absolutely enraged. I wanted to loot buildings. I didn't, but I was really upset, and I cried, and I just like even seeing the violence as a result of what happened, like, there's no words for it. So I want everyone to know that is not white, that I don't fucking get it because I don't, because I'm white. And, you know, I hope that I can do better. I hope that I can learn, just like people who deal with, you know, child, like women who, like me, who have had a lot of stuff happen. You know, I'm going to do the same thing that everyone did for me when they heard me and they listened to me and they honored me and they didn't speak over me or make me feel like garbage. They let me talk and let me say what I had to say about my pain. And that's where I think I'm going to start, because that's all I can do. You know, I'm not never going to understand what they're going through, maybe, and they've never had what I went through, you know, like it just, but at the end of the day, I just want to understand so that I can make it better, because that's how you fight anger, you know, and hate. And, you know, it's with love and understanding and patience. And it's not easy for human beings to do those things. And we don't. We have like a survival instinct, but we're getting better. I think we are getting better. This had to happen, you know? I really hate it. I despise that it had to.
It needed to happen in that way.
It shouldn't have happened.
I don't think it needed to happen.
George dying like that. That's unacceptable. I really think that you might be onto something with the, you know, somebody's causing something, like, because I don't imagine that these people would start looting and causing problems and everything else as a Black community. They just would not do that. They're opposed to it. They just watched one of their own get murdered.
I don't believe that for a second.
By a cop. Like, fuck. I mean, I think that, yeah, something's going on. But all I know is that I'm going to try to make myself a better person.
I agree with, you know, from my perspective, I'm always happy to listen. Always. I mean, I kind of enjoy hearing people's experiences in the world, even the painful ones. Not that I enjoy that they've suffered or that I enjoy that they've had pain, but I'm comfortable enough to sit and see it and hold it and hear it, and recognize that I may not have had the same experience, or I may not be able to even relate to it, but I can appreciate that it happened to them. And I can appreciate the impact that it had on their life. I struggle with the idea of me apologizing for being born into this body. That part I struggle with a little bit. And it's not that I don't recognize that I may have had ancestors who have harmed their ancestors. And it's not that I don't recognize that I may have done things in my own lifetime without realizing that I have created injustice, because I'm sure that I have. And I'm more than happy to apologize to those individuals that I have hurt along the way. But I struggle with this concept of us all needing to apologize for who we are, because I don't think anybody needs to apologize for who they are, for how, for the body they were born into. If we've made wrong actions and we've harmed people, yes. Then if we
you know who needs to apologize is the government. They need to apologize. The government, the police department, though, they need to apologize. If you don't know that you're harming someone, if you legitimately don't know, then how do you not? How do you know? You gotta, like, you know, like, you can't assume that you're gonna be, you know, and I've done it too. But when I'm open to being corrected, I'm opening, I'm open for my higher power to, you know, correct those things within me that are harmful to others. I'm open to that. And that's all I need to be right now. Because if I start to really start to think about everything in the world, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. I've always wanted to go and feed children, little children. If I was single, I would have been over there living in a wee hut and then helping out all the kids there in Africa, and like, you know, and there's so many things that I would do, but I can only do with what I'm doing right now. I can only,
Yeah,
you know, nobody could change what happened to me. Nobody can change what happened to me.
exactly.
Right? Nobody.
Exactly.
So, it's not going to be anything that's ever going to be any different. Like, you can apologize, but you didn't do it to me. You can say you're sorry that the system, you didn't do it to me. They want the friggin' people who are responsible for this bullshit to pay for it. And that's it. And I get it. I get it. But I also know that the justice system is very powerful. It's very powerful.
But that's where our attention needs to go, because all of us apologizing for something that we have not been involved in, that we have not done, it's not serving the justice here. No. But what we need to do is, if somebody is showing us injustice, if they're showing us this court case is going on, they're showing us that things are being manipulated, then we need to speak up in solidarity.
Right. And not be a chicken shit. Yes. I mean, I went to court for my sister and I didn't want to. I didn't. And then they pressed charges because they felt that I was abused. Like, I was so manipulated that I had no idea. So anyways, I went to support Fiona, and I did it afraid. And I did it even though I had my heart broken in front of, like, literally for 8 hours, bringing up my past, talking about things that are unnecessary, that have nothing to do with the fact that I was abused as a child. So, like, the system is fucked. Okay. The people with money can get what they want. In my family, they had money. So, and we did. So, the system has to change. The system has to change. Like, this all has to change. I mean, there's bias against women too. I mean, like, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict, but you know what? Like, so if I was a tramp, I was this, like, it was just terrible what they would start to bring up. And it had nothing to do with what I was going with the conversation. Incredible. So women, we ask for it, is basically what I heard. Children, we are we're seen but not heard, And my way of fighting that is helping victims, including and being there for my sister. So, maybe that's what it is for, with this Black Lives Matter, maybe it is start a protest. Maybe it is, maybe you want to do something to contribute to that effort, that's peaceful.
I think everybody has their own role to play. So there are people who are meant to get on the streets and protest. And I'm always very thankful of people who do have the courage to go and protest.
Sorry, they're badasses, man.
But then there's also people who are meant to work, within the system to try to change the system. And there's people who are meant to work with the individuals. And then there's people who are meant to work on the spiritual side and anchor in the energy that brings about this change, that holds the antidote when, we don't realize as a mass group that we're giving our power away in an energetic way, right? And it's not that anybody's doing it knowingly or with, the intention that the average human being is doing is out of love, out of support, out of solidarity, but without realizing that we've now got ourselves caught into some kind of spiritual warfare. And so not everybody needs to be involved in that, right? And that's why some people completely reject that idea and call us crazy and conspiracy theorists or whatever.
And that's okay, right?
But that's the roles that we play, right? And we have these different roles. And so, I respect those different roles that have to play out. I can look at someone who is protesting and think, wow, like I honor the courage that it takes to go out and do that. Even those people who are, that are going peacefully to protest, but knowing that there's the risk for violence there and that they're going to be put in harm's way if they're there, right? That takes courage. And it takes courage to be in the system and to speak up. That takes courage. It takes incredible courage. People don't realize how hard that is.
I did it shaking.
Sometimes,
I was shaking,
you're in it.
shaking, shaking, crying, shaking, crying. I had a Bible. It was just because I was realizing my mother totally sold me out in that moment. And it's like the system sold me out in that moment. Everything was selling me. I'm like, is this happening? Could you imagine being Black and having to deal with that shit every day in the US?
Yeah.
Like was inevitable. But having said that, knock it off with the violence. It's too much. It's too much. It's killing my heart. I can literally, like you said, every message, it's like, believe me, you think I didn't want to go across and choke out my stepmother? You know, but I didn't. I didn't.
I mean, it's been a rough couple days too. I've been getting the message the past couple days, especially last night. Like I was literally pacing in the rain, in the dark last night, because there was a lot coming in, and there's more to come. There's more to come. That's what I'm going to say. There's more to come. And my guides were very clear that the battle is now here. The battle is now here. And I don't know. They're counteracting this energy that we're holding. Yeah. But that now is the time for all of us to really step into our power, really trust our gut. You know, if something feels off, we need to honor that. Even if everybody else around us is doing something, if it feels off, dig deeper into why that feels off. And if it feels like there's some missing information or the story doesn't quite feel right, we need to dig deeper into that. You know, we all got to trust our guts because the truth is out there, but there's multiple versions of it right now. And I think it's in our best interest to really understand what's really going on. I mean, what's really going on? Because if we're going to, you know, win isn't the word that we're looking for here. To me, it's more about releasing ourselves from the density of this fourth dimension and the darkness that exists there that really wants to dampen humanity's light and the gifts and the power that we have. And we're kind of in the throes of that right now. If we're moving from the third density and we're stuck in this battle in the fourth as we make our way to the fifth. And so there's some people who are already working on the fifth and getting us there. And once we have a few there, we can start pulling people forward, right? But that's where we're at. And that's all about seeing the evil that's here and calling it out. And stepping above it. And that's what we're doing. And it's going to be messy. It's going to, like, you know, as you know, in your own journey, there's times where in order to go from point A to point B, and you know that you're moving towards the light, it's just awkward and ugly and messy, and there's tears and you're shaking. Sometimes you get too angry because you're trying to figure out that balance. And I think, you know, we're all individually trying to figure out our balance, and then collectively we're trying to figure out our balance. And so, you know, we need to support each other in that, and we also need to be kind to one another in that, and know that it's not all going to be kittens and rainbows on the path to this new earth.
Listen to people, right? Like, don't interrupt like I do. Like when somebody's talking, listen. We all we all have to have, like, you know, we can learn from each other, you know. And if you don't know what somebody's going through, don't fucking pretend like you do. It's not a good idea. It's very, very offensive. It's more like, just say that you know, that you're willing to try to understand or whatever, but never, ever, ever, ever like, oh, you know how I feel. No, you don't. You don't. You know, if I was to tell that to some of the girls that I work with, they would, and you know, a lot of times I do know how they feel. That's what I think is so funny. But, you know, and a lot of times we do. But right in that moment, if somebody wants to share something with you, they're really, really trusting your energy. So just allow them to. You know, if it's going to trigger you, it wouldn't even be happening. That's my belief. The universe will want you to be triggered. I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain any other way, but
What you mean.
I kind of go with my intuitive thing, and I didn't do the black thing on, like, the black screen on my Facebook because of that, because I'm like, I don't know, it seems like phishing to me or something. But like, I am very supportive of the cause, as they are, the cause. I'm supportive of the cause, and
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
I
not
think
supportive of
most people are.
violence. Just not the violence.
I
Just
think most people are. It's just
yeah,
we all have our own way of showing that support, and we all have our own way of,
yeah,
you know, moving throughout the world. And I think
yeah.
we can do that with love and kindness in our heart, and we can do it. That might not be what everybody else is doing, but it doesn't mean that that support and love isn't there.
Right.
Or an openness to listen, or an openness to be called out if we are in the wrong. Which, you know,
Healing is messy.
that's probably a whole other topic, right? Whole other
Yeah.
topic. And so I think this is a good place for us to end our conversation.
It's been an hour and a
today.
half.
I know. But I think it's important to show that there's different emotions around it, and that the emotions are okay to be there, but it's also okay to be in different emotion as well. So somebody will react with anger, someone will react with silence, someone will react with sadness, you know, and it doesn't mean that they aren't feeling it and that they don't support it. And, you know, that's all there. And I think we need to all, you know, we need to hold space for each other to be able to walk our own paths so that we can come together in the end, which sounds convoluted, I know, but you know, that's how the spiritual world seems to work these
Sounds
days.
like so exhausting, right? Like, it does. You're like, oh my God, this world is so screwed up. It's like if somebody was going into the doctor, right? And you're like, oh God, every bone in your body's broken. Like, so I'm just going to pray and hope that, you know, the world can see that this is better. I hope.
Yeah. And I mean, we're always happy to listen to anybody that wants to chat with us. I'm open to it. And I mean, you and I have both heard some pretty horrific stories in our lives, and we've seen some pretty horrible things. So we've got some experience with that.
And I'm not shy about it either. As you can tell, I'm not. Because you know what it is? It's like, that's part of my voice and part of what I went through. And it's like, you know, like, as a woman and a child that had both, like, it was not a good thing. At the end of the day, I'm okay right now. I really am okay. A little nuts. I have PTSD. I have issues. But you know what? Who the fuck doesn't? All of us have issues. And as long as we can just be there and good friends and love each other, even though they're, you know, nuts or whatever, then the world would just be a better place, just one person at a time. All I can do is deal with what I'm dealing with. And if I see one girl get sober and then she moves on and she's like growing and she's in university, and I'm not talking about anybody specific, and like, you know, and spiritually and is good to other people, then whatever I went through was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
So anyways.
I mean, I think we're trying to work towards a world where we don't need to have wounded healers, right? Where people don't need to go through the wounding, and we don't need to actually heal anything because those actions haven't happened. Those injustices, that suffering hasn't happened.
That is the goal.
That's the goal. And the problem is because we've been in this pattern of being wounded and then healing and being wounded and being healing, we're struggling to envision what the world would look like without that pattern. And that's where the kids, where the kids come in. Right?
Exactly it. It's like, oh my God, too many broken bones.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we lived in a world where, I mean, I love, you know, doctors are great. This is not against doctors, but wouldn't it be great if we lived in a world where we didn't need doctors, where we didn't need psychologists where when we came into our body, when we came in and that spark, that moment of divine perfection, that we were able to keep that.
Yeah. Well, we
throughout our
did.
life,
We are able to
you
keep
know?
it.
And
It's just
so
that we're not aware. We have
yeah,
it.
we all still have it, but we also have all these wounds around it, right? And so
Yeah.
how does a culture of, or culture is not even the right word, but how do so many people who have been trapped in that cycle of wounding and healing, how do we break free of that? How do we start to vision that, you know, where instead of, you know, we've been trained to believe, and it's been helpful for us to believe, I think, that we went through that so we could help others. But what
Or
if
your
we could start
family.
to instead think
My
about,
family,
I went
right?
through that so that nobody else has to.
That's right.
So it's not
That's
even to
exactly
help
it.
others, it's so that it ends with us. It ends with us. And I think that's what we need to start to hold.
My
is that
stepdaughter, my family, they're safe. Kevin comes home and he feels safe. I don't have a frying pan anymore. So it's really that's part of what it is, right? Like, is to love. My dogs are all sitting. I have 4 dogs and you can't even tell because they're just chilling because they're so comfortable right now.
yeah.
Ryder looks a little too comfortable. But anyways, I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and I mean, my kids are clearly telling us that we're done.
Oh, by the way,
Making
I
all
think
kinds
you
of
should
choices.
look at the pictures.
Yes.
There's anything
Yeah, I
special
did
on
see
there.
that. Yes, I will.
Okay. Bye,
All
honey.
right.
I love you.
Take care.
Bye.
See you next week.
Okay, I don't know how to turn it off now.